Hello, Jessy. How are you?
Good. Hi, Sarah. How are you doing today?
Good, good, good. I'm super excited you're here. Thanks for joining us for our Women Who Shift series. I've got Jessy Van Gessel here today. She's an integrative nurse practitioner, and she's at Nourish Total Health. So we're going to talk to her a little bit about both her health and career journey a little bit, and just how she's kind of made some shifts that have been super helpful for her. So if you haven't joined us for one of these, just a little bit about who I am and our work or the work that I'm doing here. My name's Sarah Rose, and I own a company called Fresh Rise Group. And um, I, what I do is help women essentially try to move their energy levels so that they can stop feeling like they're exhausted and that like life is kind of running them versus them having the life they want. So that's kind of what I do. And in this series, we really try to highlight women who have made a shift because we know that it's super hard to feel like it's possible in our lives to make shifts or to create change that changes how things feel, right? But we know so many women can do it. It takes a lot sometimes, but we'd just like to highlight women like that. And Jessy's one of those today. So Jessy's also a member of our Re-Energizing Professional Women Facebook group. So we are glad to have her and her being willing to tell her story today. So Jessy, welcome. Tell us
Thank
where
you.
you are, Jessy.
I'm in Byron Center, Michigan, so just outside of Grand Rapids, Michigan, southwest side.
Okay, great. Yeah, we're not too far then. Whoops.
No.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about just the shift you made. Yeah, we'll just get us started.
Yeah. It was sort of a domino effect, but as you mentioned, a career shift. I'm a family nurse practitioner certified. I worked in a big conventional medical practice and family medicine for over 9 years and decided to make a shift into opening my own integrative practice, small solo practitioner, just part time.
Yeah.
But in turn, that was sort of a domino effect of helping improve work life balance and then also being able to shift my own health and wellness and taking care of myself.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So how did you know it was time to make a change? Let's kind of dive in a little bit.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. So I would say it was really August of 2021. So we were sort of in the height of the pandemic, and
Yeah.
working in medicine at that time was very, very challenging.
Mhm.
And there were a few different things. One, the workload I had, I was just constantly on my computer, charting all the time, putting my kids to bed, back on my computer, charting. My husband was making statements about it. I was coming home crying most days from work, just feeling like I wasn't providing the care that I felt like I needed to give to people. And then my oldest son was going into kindergarten that fall. And that was sort of a light bulb shift of, oh my goodness, like I've been living life, but I feel like I've been living on autopilot, just getting from one day to the next and not really being present and recognizing like I can't do this anymore. And
Yeah.
then on top of all that, I just felt like personally God was kind of telling me I had been feeling like I was supposed to be going out on my own, and I really did not want to do that. And I was really ignoring it. Um, and then I actually so with all that, found a life coach at the time who's also a nurse practitioner who helps other nurse practitioners open practices. And I engaged in her life coaching. And within a few weeks, it was just sort of very obvious, like, okay, I have to do this. Like I have to stop ignoring that I need to make this shift.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay. I just want to acknowledge just all that emotion, right? That was also present in all of this is like these shifts come with a lot of heaviness. They're not always easy and obvious. It's like, no, I don't want to have to do that. I don't
Yeah.
want business ownership or I don't want, to feel like I am kind of like forced to leave the security of work, right? And yet there's like these pulls that happen and there's the emotional drain of just feeling like you're anxious all the time or stressed or overworked or all the things. And all of that just like starts to just get heavier and heavier the longer we don't listen to it. So
Absolutely.
I love that. I mean, I don't love that it was so hard in there, for you, but I love that you just acknowledge that because I think that's how so many women feel. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Um, and just tell us a little bit about like how were your health, well-being, energy levels, that kind of stuff. How are they being impacted like before you shift? You told us a little bit, but just a little more, and if there's anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think about when I was obviously in family medicine and talking to patients about what they needed to do, and I was sort of talking the talk, but not able to walk the walk myself.
Yeah,
Um, so I had a lot of health issues, IBS for years, TMJ issues, pelvic floor dysfunction, pain, chronic pain, as you mentioned, sort of heightened anxiety for sure, even some
yeah,
depression around that time of just, feeling things were not in alignment. So there was a lot going on for me, personally for sure with
right.
my health and wellness.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for all that honesty. Yeah. I mean, this is the stuff we don't talk about, right? Like
Yeah.
this is what's happening behind the scenes to women everywhere. So, it's the same stuff I was experiencing. You're experiencing it as well. So I'm sure that many of our people in our audience are going to feel the same. So, and I just think it's so critical to be authentic in these conversations and honest, right? Like it's like this is real life, actually. This is
Yeah.
real life. So so what was the kind of like the preparation? Like change doesn't happen immediately, right? It's like we go through those oh crap moments where it's like, wait, I don't want to change. And then okay, I know I have to, but how do I even start? So what did preparation for change look like for you? I know you mentioned a little bit about your coaching experience, but what else?
Yeah, it was almost like having to take on more at that time in order to know there was going to be that end point of relief, right? So my coach had a whole, I did the life coaching, but then she has a whole different kind of business coaching for like, these are all the steps you need to take to, get yourself up and running with a practice. So I had to take that on and start working on that while I was still working my full-time family medicine job, be able to give a notice there. I gave a 4-month notice so I could really wrap things up. I mean, I had been there over 9 years. And to your point about, comfort, I mean, it was like, yeah, that just became what I knew and what I was comfortable with. And so I needed time to kind of wrap things up, in terms of that and be on the trajectory of, I left June of 22 with anticipation as I was going to kind of open my own thing come August, September.
Yeah.
But I really started that prep work that November prior. So it was a while that I was working on that. And then just working kind of like with my husband, from the financial side, because I was taking a step, even though I was opening my own practice, I
Yeah.
knew I was going into that, not trying to get right back into like, let's build this right away and make this a full-time thing. I sort of was like, let's do a career shift, but also know I needed to take almost kind of like a little bit of a leave of absence from work at the same
Yeah.
time, really work on my health and wellness. And, recovering from burnout is what I really needed to focus on.
Yeah, there's a healing period, I think. And honestly, in a lot of the research I've done, just this is the space I love to learn more about because it's the same experience for me, but is like it can really take us almost a year to really start to heal from some of the burnout, depending on kind of how severe it was. And so, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I love that you were aware enough to go, okay, this can't be full time right out of the gate for me. I've got to think about me in here like I wasn't before, right?
Right. I've had to be really intentional about my energy now and listening to like my own boundaries and like what's okay to take on and not go right back to that. And to your point, I mean, I'm a year and a half into having built my own, and I feel like I'm just now really getting my energy and my groove back. I mean, it was like at least a year or so, and initially leaving, you take away all that cortisol that's high because it's been there chronically, right, all the time. And it was like this nosedive at the beginning. And it was like, oh my goodness, like really being able to feel all the things that I think were really there under the surface, but that constant being in that sympathetic nervous state, fight or flight, really covers a lot of that up for you. And you don't even realize it till you sort of take it away. And then it's like, oh my goodness, this is really what I've been feeling. And I need to give myself time to recover from this.
Yeah. And just so our audience knows, what Jesse's talking about is really the fact that in our stressful 2024 jobs, right? Basically every little stressor in your day is creating this like cortisol bump for you. But what happens is it's almost like, and Jessy may be able to describe this even better than me, but just like basics are around, it's essentially keeping our cortisol levels up the whole day. Unless we're doing things to kind of intentionally bring it down, which most of us aren't. These things can include things like, meditation, breathing, acknowledging what we're doing well, celebrating accomplishments. Those things actually bring our cortisol levels down, but it's stuff we don't do very well. It's one of the reasons I created the Facebook group, because we need these like reminders and triggers for ourselves to go, yeah, what am I celebrating? What was a good thing today? Because our brains need that to drop. So just a little snippet. If you have anything else to add, feel free, but.
No, that's perfect. And that's a lot of what I do now with patients, clients, talk about, engaging that parasympathetic nervous system that gets you into that rest and digest, that keeps, exactly to your point, helps bring that cortisol down. It's not good for our cortisol to be consistently elevated. So many health issues result from that. And so many people, especially women, are in that state.
Yes, totally. Okay, well, we're going along here, but let me ask a couple more questions. What do you think was let's talk about what was the most rewarding piece of making this leap for you?
I mean, I think overall the most rewarding has been being able to give myself the self-care that's necessary, and therefore being able to show up and be present the way I want to, not only for myself, but for my kids, for my partner, family members, friends, and even my patients, and being able to provide the care that I want to provide from a career perspective too.
Yeah, I can hear it's just like you feel better about who can show up
Yeah.
from where you're at. Yeah. Okay. Our internet's doing a little bit of weird stuff, but I think we're okay. I can still
Okay.
hear you. It's just like you're freezing up a little bit. So I'll just kind of mention
Okay.
that mostly just I think we're okay, but if it keeps going, maybe yeah, you're good now. If it keeps going, I might have you just jump off or not get off, but just turn off your camera and turn it back on. Sometimes that
Okay.
will help it.
Okay.
But I can hear you. You're just a little off from things on your voice, but it's okay. So what have you noticed well, I think we just heard a little bit of that, but any additional changes in like your mood or your emotional state or your energy that you can just like maybe give us an example of that's changed?
Yeah. I mean, definitely better energy, my mood. I'd say one of the biggest things before was like irritability. I was always irritable, even with my children, things really got to me. I'm able to really just be much more present and aware of my emotions and feelings, and even starting to feel that irritability if it rises now, and, pinpoint what specific things might be influencing that, and being able to really focus and shift and make changes. But yeah, I think just day to day, a lot more joy in my life, which is wonderful to feel, right? So yeah.
Yes. And just
And
think about all the hard you went through to get there, right? Like all the
yes,
like worry, the doubt, um, the feeling of like, oh my gosh, am I creating insecurity for my family? And yet here you are creating security for your family now.
yeah,
It's pretty
yeah.
cool.
I mean, there definitely was, fear of failure was really big, and had to get over that hurdle with career shift and entrepreneurship and things that, was very different. But on the flip side, to your point, a lot of positive and positive emotion. And part of that has just also been having the space and time for the self-care and kind of integrating, things that I needed for myself. Like, I see a chiropractor, I see an acupuncturist, I go to hot yoga weekly. I mean, all the things that I really
Mhm.
needed to be doing that I couldn't do before. And so, layering all those things in have just helped me, physically and emotionally.
Yeah, I love that. I think there's also so much that can be done. Even, we're talking about big career job shift with Jessy, right? But one of the things I like to do with my clients is really start to explore how can we make shifts even with your current job, because I think like once we're on the outside of it, sometimes it's easier to look back and go, I really could have prioritized X, right? Or I could have fit that in. I was putting my energy and time and efforts and responsibility in other places. And it felt like that was where it had to go. But for me, I know that once I started to explore those areas I could shift, I realized, no, I actually can back off. I started to be able to see those ways before I left full-time work too. So I just wanted to mention that just because people think, oh, I don't know if I can leave my job, right? But it doesn't have to be as big. There's so many things we can shift. So, okay.
Absolutely.
One maybe last question, just because of time. What do you think? What would be some like words of wisdom that you might give for somebody who's either considering a similar change or, just kind of like thinking about how do I shift this? Anything?
I mean, I think one of the biggest things I think about is it's not a linear journey. There's a lot of ups and downs, and figuring out what that new groove, balance looks like is ever evolving. We want to sort of think like, oh, I'm going to do this, and then all of this is going to fall into place. And again, a year and a half later, I feel like I'm just starting to get my footing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of discomfort in there about like sitting with those feelings and emotions.
Mhm.
And I'd say just sit with them, right? Like, let yourself feel it and be okay with it, be okay with the discomfort. It's really easy that we want to do things to change that discomfort, but it's there for a reason, and that's how we, learn and grow and adapt and change. So it's a continuous journey and process, that's for sure.
Love that. Yeah. And our bodies are always telling us stuff. We just have to learn to listen.
Absolutely. Yes.
I know you've got your business now. Since you have that, tell us a little bit about your business, and kind of what you do and maybe where people can find more. We can also drop some info in our chat. So,
Sure. Yeah. So I say I'm an integrative nurse practitioner because I combine holistic, functional, which is root cause medicine, along with conventional practices in treating patients. And so I do a lot with lifestyle principles and gut health. I think gut health, and again, the part of my journey was working on healing my own gut during all this as well, and how our gut is tied so much to other aspects of our health. So
mhm.
that's sort of the foundational things I work on with patients. I'm certified to see all ages, but I would say I primarily see a lot of women. And I am a cash-based practice, but I am set up with the local big Epic systems to order blood work and imaging and things like that through there if needed. So,
Great.
and I have a combination. I'm actually, this is my office space right here, but I do in person and virtual visits. And so my website's www.nourishtotalhealth.com. And that's where people can find more information about what I do.
Okay. Thanks, Jesse. Cool.
Uh,
Yes,
Thank you.
I think it's so cool just to the whole integrative medicine concepts. There's so much we can learn from each other. And I think there's a lot of spaces where we're all starting to kind of overlap in what we know, right? And I think that the integrative health area is just a really cool space to really help get us answers on a lot of things. So thanks for
Yeah.
sharing all that.
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you.
Yeah. Anything else you want to share or last thoughts before we jump off?
I don't think so. Thanks for having me. It's been exciting to just kind of share the journey, and I hope it helps other women, to your point about just, knowing the shift. And like you said about, um, not everybody can make a huge career change. For me, it was, having a partner that could kind of support our family financially while I made the shift, knowing that not everybody can just up and kind of leave their job. But there are things that, like you said, in hindsight, boundaries that I wasn't good with work-life balance that, I could have now knowing could have been better with, putting up some of those boundaries that could have helped with some of that burnout for sure.
Yeah, hey, we're always learning, right? We are
Yeah.
always learning, but I think the key is to know there's always more to learn and there's always new ways to do things. So that's what my hope is to share with everybody in these series too. So
Yeah, absolutely. And give yourself grace, right? That's why I
yeah,
always have to remind myself as
love
well.
that. Love that. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Jessy. You stay on. We'll touch base after, but thanks everybody for listening, and I hope you got some good input from Jessy today. Thanks so much for being honest and just really really willing to be kind of almost a guide for us today, Jessy.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely.